I'd like to call the October Economic Development Committee meeting to order. Stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
All right, we got the roll taken, Chad.
We do.
Okay. I'd like the motion to adopt the agenda. Okay, so moved in second. All that agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Who seconded that?
I did.
Okay, proceed. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, agenda is adopted. I would look for approval of September 27th, 2022 minutes. Motion by Belinda. Second. Seconded by Mr. Verche. All that approve signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Minutes passed. Next on the agenda is meet and representatives and discuss services provided by the Small Business Development Center at Stevens Point. Yeah, you got this?
Wonderful. So I'll kick this off. I'm going to introduce Patrick Gatterman and Mark Spears from the Small Business Development Center. We had a meet and greet today. April Kapitsky and I had a meet and greet with them. Just kind of get to know their services and get to know them a little bit better. Have a, I've never met the individuals yet, and I think they're new to April too. So it was kind of a good meeting just to see what the SBDC has to offer and just make those contacts. So I'm going to introduce Patrick to kind of give the tales again that we had this afternoon about what the SBDC has to offer.
Great. And hopefully can everyone, I guess, hear me both at home or I guess on the road, Bill?
Clear, very clear.
Great, thank you. So once again, my name is Patrick Gatterman. I'm the director of the Small Business Development Center at UW Stevens Point. And through this whole presentation, Chad promised me 4.5 hours. I'll try to use as many acronyms as at all possible as a government employee, that's my role, right?
Yep.
So has anyone here, I guess, heard of the SBDC or the Small Business Development Center? Because I'm just going to kind of give a brief overview, and I appreciate Bill probably has.
Bill just put a hands up on his thing here. So
Perfect. Well, and they assured me you're one of our largest cheerleaders, so I do appreciate that because that's what we partner with a lot of banks, and Bill being one of them. So the Small Business Development Center, we're free business consulting for small businesses. Now, what's a small business? The small business actually can be millions of dollars and hundreds of people. So really it's upwards of almost anybody in Wisconsin. But SBDCs, we're not just at UW Stevens Point. We're at every UW campus in Wisconsin, meaning La Crosse, Madison, Green Bay. There's 14 of us. And all of us are very similar in organization where you have a center director, and then you have consultants and perhaps outreach managers or some of that kind of that organization where we serve different roles. And once again, like what we do is we do free business consulting. A lot of people know us as, oh, you're the folks who help with business plans. Absolutely. That is our bread and butter. We work with people on parts of their business plan, all their business plan, but we are definitely more than that. So we are more known as far as UW Stevens Point for our programming, and programming meaning just simply that we do business classes. Currently in the fall, we provide ETP. We call it, once again, here's my acronym, but I'm going to try not to do that for you guys. Entrepreneur Training Program. And that is a 9-week class held 3 hours a week where we teach people that same business practice, that same business modeling within a organized curriculum. And at the end, they actually have a bank-ready business plan or bank-ready work plan. They could go to a financial institution and say, hey, here are my financials. Here are what we can do. And here's the business I want to start. So like I said, we work with anybody from I want to have a dog walking service to I want to build a $4.9 million new building. That's where we come into play. Now, some unique things that, like I said, we are known for our programming or our it's our classes we hold. It's not just ETP. We hold QuickBooks, e-commerce training. We always try to work with city and chamber officials to what does this area need maybe different from other areas. So, but there's other SBDCs who organize differently. So what's unique to like what we can offer is we have, for example, a CPA firm in Wisconsin that's free for any SBDC client that is kind of looking to grow more than just a mom and pop shop. So I'm looking to add on employees. And I tell people, hey, if you're good at being a good cook, be a good cook. Don't be a bad financial person or do what you're good at. And then let us help you do what perhaps you're not good at or help you organize that. So that's how is that UW Eau Claire, that CPA firm. And like I said, it's free for any client of ours to use. So the UWSP, our region, we're obviously rural, but we go from Adams County, we come on over to Wapaka, Langlade, Portage, Marathon, Lincoln, Oneida, and Vilas. So we're fairly broad. But reason we come to these meetings is I don't live here. I don't know the businesses as well as you guys do. So I need people like Chad and April and you people to say, hey, here's what our region needs. We need programming specific to our region, for example. And we had a great discussion on perhaps things we could work with, most beneficially. But what other things we can bring together is we know what other areas are working on throughout the state. And sometimes when you guys come to us, say, hey, we're struggling with housing, and that's everybody, worker housing, babysitting, daycare. Well, there's other regions doing similar, things that we can hopefully bring that same collaboration together. So like I said, really, I wanted this to be who we are in kind of a nutshell. And I can definitely open up to any questions you guys have on what we could do. I actually have sat on many economic development boards, and I sit on the Heart of Wisconsin. I'm the vice chairman, which is a chamber of commerce out of Wisconsin Rapids. So I know the seats you sit in, and it's definitely it's enjoyable. You guys definitely you guys start to plan this, how you grow a city. And it's kind of funny talking to April and Chad today. I couldn't tell you how many people of my friends on Facebook take a picture of, I'm not sure, what is it called? The butterfly one?
The one over on Easy Street, and then he's talking about the one on Longevity where she's flipping her hair.
So you guys know that those murals, right? I'm like, where is that place? I've always wondered. And I'm pretty happy that as I come into New London, I'm like, haha. But it is. Placemaking has also really served as a really good opportunity to put New London on a map for that Wolf River Arts League.
Mm-hmm.
They're phenomenal. But just, no one really thought placemaking or murals are going to grow a community, but this kind of proves to serve it. People are competing to come to New London. So with that, I really don't keep it under 2 hours. I'd love to entertain any questions on what we can do, what we've done in the past. Anything else for the good of the group? Or Chad or April, you want to highlight anything we talked about earlier? I certainly can.
I think from a chamber standpoint, the SBDC is my first resource if I am not able to help a business and they have a question about anything financing or their business plan, or I'm a one-man band and I want to hire an employee. What are my first steps? I'm not sure what to do with my QuickBooks. If I can't help them, I'm always using the SBDC. They're a great resource to support businesses.
Thank you, April.
I wouldn't mind if you would echo what you said this afternoon about the relationships between the chambers and the city and the communities that you've seen, and just how important that
I absolutely
aspect is.
could.
Yep, go ahead.
So we serve many counties, and I can tell the counties that have EDOs and chambers, and there's more to them. We'll go into some other statistics later, but they're actually our most successful counties, where the counties and the villages have actually invested into organizations that can do the work. Versus relying upon just the general public itself. So of our 9 counties, the ones that actually have EDOs and have a chamber that work together are by far the most successful, counties. And what's unfortunate, I'm not going to tell which counties, but the ones that don't have an EDO, they don't have a chamber that works together, they're failing. They're not having business starts because there's nobody here doing the work and meant to do the work. Because you need to have someone specifically that, works with businesses, that works with economic development. That is an important factor. And a really interesting statistic that I shared, honestly, mainly for Chad's sake, is we work with a lot of developers as well. And if you have a developer looking to come to a city and work on any government project, whether they build housing, build motels, a developer, the first thing they look for, I like playing the guessing game. What do you think the first thing they look for in a community? Anybody. A developer will look for,
District when I'm looking to move to a new community.
A business coming, I think they're gonna look to the chamber.
and they will, but there's actually one thing that a developer who wants to build multi-million dollar anything anywhere, the first thing to look for is having a city or village or county administrator. It actually is the most, it's a really cool statistic that if a city or village, like I tell you, if New London didn't have you, it wouldn't be targeted. It wouldn't be on anybody's scope. It's not to toot your horn by any means, but it's this position. So I want to tell you, but then of course, the fact that you guys have a really good working, I mean, you have a really good working relationship between both the chamber, the city, the county. I like it when I bring up people's, oh yeah, we work with them. Oh yeah, we work with them. That's what this county is clicking. I love that. We have what's called the ERFC. That's how people request for consulting through us. Just this week alone, we had, which I know doesn't seem like a ton, but we had 4 new businesses that want to start up in Wapaka County area, with one of those being in the Clintonville area. So that's actually, I mean, in 1 week, 4 startups in this, that's a good amount. So you multiply that a course of a year, you guys do have hundreds of startups in this area that, you know, they're reaching out to the SBDC on millions of questions. I'm buying the building. Can you help me? Like, what insurance question should I ask? So we're there. I mean, we're kind of that wall, I would say, like, let me bounce ideas off you. And sometimes we're the bearer of bad news, to be completely honest. We vet out a business. So we're working on the business plan. There are things that may stop that business being successful. We want to identify that early on so they don't continue on and just not say fail, but not continually dig down that same rabbit hole. So we're always the partner through the good and sometimes the bad.
So how would we get another grocery store in town?
Another grocery store?
We only got one.
Honestly, the best avenue right now with grocery stores are cooperative based grocery. So cooperative where people who provide services to that grocery store are not necessarily always local, but members or owners of that. So one of the most successful, like Willie Street Co-op in Madison and Stevens Point Co-op in Stevens Point are really, really cool and very popular grocery stores, but 100% member owned, member supplied. And that's my take on it. So grocery stores, but that's also cooperative. I'm going to preach cooperatives and I'll apologize now. That's what my background is. And that's actually my expertise is cooperative business plans because it's worker owned, you know, worker obligated. I can tell you cooperatives rarely have a problem with, I mean, you drive up and down this street, how many are hiring right now? Everybody, right? Well, when you say you own part of this, that's one of the most successful products. And farm cooperatives, you know, like grocery store cooperatives, they know that business. They supply wholesale products to somebody. Why not have them supply that wholesale product to this region if they live or work close by? And honestly, there's a lot of this rural area of Wisconsin has a lot of farm to table businesses from bar restaurants up in Wausau. There's places, the point there's all over. So I think that's what we should look at are existing models that leverage member owned resources in the region.
I like how you said the word resources, and we've had a gentleman speak at that economic development committee, and he was a true example of, you know, he walked in to my office one day looking as a resource. We worked with SBDC, which is a phenomenal resource. And, you know, if there's one thing I would say is just, you know, we're not great at everything, but we all have the connections, and you guys are an amazing connection for many of the folks that I have sent to that office. I would encourage everyone sitting around those tables to take some of the, if you have the those little cardboard flyers, to take some of those with and definitely dig deep into everything that you guys do. I can't speak highly enough of the resources and the knowledge that you brought to the people that I work with.
If somebody calls you or emails you, what's the first thing that happens? So I'm thinking about starting a dog walking business. I mean, what's the first thing that happens? Who are they going to talk to? Are they going to be asked to drive to Stevens Point? Are they going to be asked to fill out some paperwork? How does the process work?
Oh, great question. So we do rely upon a what's called an ERFC. It doesn't have to be electronic, but it's a request for consultation. And that can be, like I said, electronic is the easiest way to ask who you are, where you live, and what are you looking for. It goes to one of three people. It goes to all of us, technically. We all see the email come in. Like I said, and you don't have to start that way. A lot of times I'll meet you out and about at a restaurant, at coffee. I'm like, I love to start this business. We can talk a lot about it. We want to get that EFC at some point in time, ERFC, because that's that contractual, confidential contract between you and I, that no matter what you tell me, I won't tell somebody else. It's that we need that for your sake, but also for ours. The other reason is I get hit by a beer truck tomorrow. I want someone else to know within a database that I talked to you and your information doesn't go unresponded to. So you get routed through our ERFC, which goes to typically our intern will route them, send them to myself or Mark. So it's one of us in the room. We'll reach out to you typically with an email. If you'd ask not to be contacted by email, we'll call you by phone and ask, well, how would you like to meet? Would you like to meet in person? Would you like us to come to your place? Would you rather come to our place? Or do you want to meet via a Zoom meeting? So we give as many options as possible. I like to travel. I won't lie to you. Oh, and thank you for bringing up our region.
Mhm.
So I like to travel because it puts them at ease to where, we're in their place, right? And sometimes they're going to ask questions that they're thinking of because they're in their business. But sometimes it's a true startup business. They want to, they're coming outside of their time. A lot of times our first meeting, to be honest with you, for most parts of our region is just a Zoom meeting. We kind of vet out. Sometimes they're just looking for just easy guidance, like, hey, who do I call for a health permit? Well, we work with a lot of food trucks, with a lot of food industry. I can probably tell you most counties who you call for a health permit. It's sometimes just a simple question, but we want to log that and keep that track. So when you call back a second time, be like, hey, remember I called about the, person for the food truck or food, your health code. I'm looking into a food truck. You know anybody that does that? So we try to make sure we keep a log and it's our database that also, if you were to move, that same database would go to somebody else, another center. So they know exactly who you are. But it's a really good way of kind of keeping track of, like I said, no one gets lost in the hundreds of people we work with every year.
I just add one thing to get to the link to sign up. You can go to our website to sign up for consulting. Google UWSP SBDC. It'll take care of it.
And you can use that really cool little, whatever you call those things.
QR code.
Thank you. So other than myself and Mark, Zia Yang is our outreach specialist, and she's responsible for that amazing stuff. So that's why I said whatever that thing is. I told her I want one of those little cool little things I can take a picture of, and it sends me to it. And she's also responsible for all of our programming, which I can tell has won, I'll say us award, but Zia has been recognized as one of the 40 under 40 awards in the nation. So she's actually recognized at a national level for how amazing she is at her programming, her work with underserved individuals. And during the tenure of this director absence, she acted as interim director while she also still did her regular role. So, us three, as well as Sophie, who's our intern, we're a small shop, but we feel we turn out a good product.
It sounds really awesome what you guys do. I was just kind of curious. How are you funded?
So we are funded partly by the SBA and partly by the UWSP. So it's called a match grant. Ultimately, we've been funded for 40 years-ish. So it's been a tenured, but we are SBA funded, so much like SCORE. A lot of, we're a government organization ultimately but we are UWSP employees. I try to wear purple. I do. It just doesn't look good on me. So that's why, I still bleed red as a UW, but it's, UW also serves as our home. They supply us with buildings. So we're kind of both of those. And all of what we use for our money actually goes towards, we're pretty much all consulting. We don't have travel budgets. Our travel is our 9 counties. If we we try not to stay overnight because, it's costly. We would like to give as much money as we can, put as much money in our budget into consulting services or programming services. And programming, we feel, is one of our best, honestly, our mantra, because educating people on QuickBooks, Excel, e-commerce, and there's more than that. I mean, there's many.
Is the
Is-
programming on a calendar? In other words, oh, we've got another one starting on November 1st. You can get signed up?
Yep.
Or is it the type of thing that you could?
So we actually do have a calendar we put out, and so our team will meet next week, get a calendar together for all of 2023 programming. We'll get that to April and Chad, and definitely it'll be out there. Now, granted, there are things that will pop up. And hopefully like everyone looks at, we can send you links. It goes like April shares a lot of it on our chamber link. So they're like, for us, a good example for this area is Wapaka County is well known for veteran work. I mean, my dad was he was in King for a while. I know this area well. And you guys are actually having a specific, remember I mentioned ETP, that training program at 9 weeks. You're gonna have a veterans only, Wapaka only ETP class held in the spring. So don't know if that's gonna be a separate class or rolled into it. Like we're gonna reserve spots in a existing spring class, because our stuff is on a calendar base. Like we hold ETP in the spring and the fall. We have what's called First Steps, which is held every month at night for an hour. So everything does sit on the calendar, but then there's unique things that pop up. Like we can have an area that I'll give it. So this e-commerce thing, we have never done e-commerce training. That's not what we do. But UW River Falls does. So when Vilas County said, our businesses would love some e-commerce training. Great. So UW River Falls gives us her 6 weeks academy. We can then roll out a e-commerce for that region. So that will pop up sometime in 2021 without a real plan for it, right? Like I didn't know they'd ask for it, but it'll be available to our entire 9-county region. Good question. Thank you.
Patrick, we talked today about just the challenges with finding, brick and mortars for places that April and I are kind of going through now. But you brought up some interesting points about shared like warehousing and shared kitchen spaces. You want to kind of talk about that again?
Sure. Because that's, as we go through our entire region, we run the same question. Because of the Main Street bounce back money, every storefront, every available spot is taken. So now you have people who post that, right? Like, where can I go? But we don't do economic development. Our role is business consulting. That's what we do. We teach business. That's all we do. When someone wants a building, I send them to you guys. And because you people live here. You're like, I know, places that are open. You can help them navigate that. And then, of course, as I'm doing that, I get a call from the Stevens Point ED, and he said, stop doing that because we don't have spaces available. So don't send anybody to the city because we're telling them go somewhere else. What a really bad thing to have, right? It's a good problem. Every spot's taken, but that's a problem nonetheless. So what we're doing actually in Point, and we're seeing this all over our region, I'll talk about Point specific, is they're sick of saying that, right? So they're developing a incubator, which incubators, they went out of style like in the 80s. They all failed. It's like that's why malls closed down. It didn't happen. But now we have that same problem again where there's no space. So you see a lot of incubation on shared or light businesses. In Point, it is definitely light manufacturing. But as we travel up into like Vilas and Oneida County, they have privately owned incubators, which are really just shared workspaces for retail because there is no space available. And sometimes it's atypical buildings. Like people don't think of old warehousing, basements, believe it or not, things that are available that have firehouses. I'm not saying this one, of course, but it's schools, churches, for a lot of reasons. One, I can tell you some really cool, like food trucks, home-based food businesses, they are dying for a place. And of course, they're not going to open up a restaurant. So that's where we talk about a commissary or a shared kitchen resource. And targets are always schools or churches because they usually have large kitchens, and then having rental base for that. So what really helps is get some of those home-based businesses, not just legal, because not saying they're illegal, but there's a lot of rules they gotta live by, and it's very tough, from labeling side to where they can sell, how they can sell. It has to be in person at farmers markets. So it allows them to expand into something else and grow. But commercial, that's a really good opportunity. But then also, like I said, the food trucks, they don't cook in their truck, as we all know. They need a commercial kitchen, a commissary to prep in and then bring it out. And food trucks or food carts they're gonna continue to explode. I mean, there's a couple in this region. There's gonna be more in 2 years. Everyone wants one. Like there's food truck festivals, there's food truck fairs. That's a key part of having, I mean, it is key to success for any community right now is just sharing resources, rental-based resources. And like I said, that's region-wide. They're all trying to figure out a way to, find those resources. Schools, churches, old village buildings, believe it or not, old, like large workplaces, like in Stevens Point, Century Insurance, they had 500 employees, they had to feed them all. So like things you don't think about sometimes that you can fit people. Other shared resources really available, trying to get home-based businesses, not necessarily out of the home, but to grow is offering more. It's actually shipping and receiving services. Like I build something in my garage, I can't bring it to FedEx. It doesn't fit in this box. I would love a dock, but I don't have a dock. Having dock space rental that they don't also have to monitor, that they can drop it off at. Those are growing. I haven't seen many in Wisconsin, unfortunately, yet, but I think as an economic development group, like these are just targets you guys should look at because you're out and about like, wow, you know what could go here? A little mini speedy department. Like they're important because I mean, I own an Etsy business and I'll go home tonight. I'll wrap 15, 16 glass jars. And my girlfriend during lunch tomorrow has to bring them to the UPS store. And she's happy as heck because she has let our puppy out too. And that's what we have to do. It'd be nice if I could do that at 8:00 at night into some other service that other people do. And I know they'd sit on a dock and be picked up tomorrow. So, but those are things that help a business without a storefront, with nothing else other than, wrapping paper, pallets, and a dock, and some type of person to manage that. But that grows those home-based businesses, especially right now with so many remote workers. It's unbelievable. I mean, spouses of remote workers, husband or wife, they're bored. They are, and they can only walk the dog so much before they want to do something. Many, many, many are opening small businesses in their home. So, it's home-based businesses are cool. They're awesome, but some need to grow from home and some don't belong at home. Where you start to attract more people coming to your neighborhood, the city sometimes looked at those as that's not a good place for that. That should be in a district where businesses should happen. But there's definitely opportunity where it's shared resources. That's what everyone's kind of seeing right now in not just our region, but in our nation. It's strengthening power through, like I said, shared resources. I think of the cooperative. If I have, we have a lot of CSAs in Wisconsin. Having those CSAs able to, peddle wares year round at a grocery store, it's the same thing. It's a shared resource. They have a place to bring something. I could talk forever. I apologize.
You said
I love talking about business.
You said 4.5 hours. I told him 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, he did. But it's funny, this position, and I've shared with these guys, I wasn't looking for this job. I was not. And my girlfriend was actually looking for a new job. And this came up and she was reading me the job description. I'm like, honey, I own a small business myself. I do. I don't want to work for the man. I don't want to wear a collared shirt again. I wear a t-shirt and shorts every day. So let me read you the whole thing before you say no. And almost at the end, it said, this position of this person must own or have owned a business recently. I'm like, they're looking for a person that owns a business? That doesn't make any sense. And it's true. All of us, Mark owned a construction company. I own an outdoor adventure company. Zia owns a restaurant. I now own an ice fishing company. Business. And that's what's kind of unique. If you look at all of our SBDC employees, we all own businesses or have owned or will own. So it's nice that they understand the UWSP as well as SBA. They like that. Now, of course, it's up to us to, work with that. And they'll tell you, okay, how do you plan on doing that? For me, I sold the company because I start 30 businesses every month. That person comes to me and says, I want to start a dog walking service. That's my new business because they call you, they text you, they message you in the middle of the night. You're their consultant. You're their person. I love that because I feel like the questions I get, it's the questions they ask their husband, their wife, their mom, their dad. they trust you. And that's a huge importance. That's a responsibility of us to supply a educated but truth question and truth answer.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Otherwise, I want to thank Patrick and Mark for stopping by. And one of the biggest takeaways I wanted to kind of bring to the committee was just to understand what the SBDC has to offer. And then, I mean, April and I are obviously out in the field, talking to people, but you guys are too. So, I mean, especially when you guys are talking to people that, are interested in starting a small business, you guys know, what services they have to offer and where we can go with things. So I thank both of you guys for coming out today.
Thank you both. And it was a great discussion earlier. It really was. So, and like this is a hop, skip, and jump for us. So don't feel like we're in Point. I love to come here. So if there are meetings that you feel we should be at for a Point, development meetings, there's like, hey, SPD someone should be there. Mark, myself, or Zia, we will be. So rest assured, we're a phone call away, but we're here for anything you guys need. So
Did you say you had any business cards or no?
I got the last one.
I took,
Good.
yeah. we took
Well,
all-
but it's, I mean, we actually do
April,
have a stack.
would-
Oh,
I say, April, would this be a candidate? Would this be a good fit for one of the chamber meetings, just to share the knowledge and, let everybody be aware?
yeah, I can.
Sure, absolutely. Yep,
Chamber networking you're talking about?
Yes.
absolutely. He's got some marketing cards that I asked him to refill our tourism center, so I'll make sure to drop some off for the city too.
Sure. Thank
I
you.
do have those, and it's the reason I'm embarrassed to a point, because as we were just at a county, like it was a couple weeks ago, we're like, hey, bring those rack cards. I'm like, oh, I don't know why we don't bring those with us. And then we come here, and what do I not bring?
I asked for.
The rack cards. I don't know how I do that. I'm just gonna put a bunch in the vehicle.
Yep, there
Is
you go.
that what we're seeing up on the screen right now?
It is, yep.
So
And
that
there's a
was
second side to
included,
it.
the electronic copy was included in their packet, so they do
Oh.
have this.
Awesome, thank you. Perfect.
Mhm.
And like I said, they're a neat little rack card that kind of goes into all we do. It is start, manage, finance, grow, market.
We can also encourage people to watch this meeting on YouTube.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
It'd be like just being here almost. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
I
you.
think it's a great resource because I think 50% of the people are better that start a business. They don't know where to go to. I mean, they're kind of lost. They're trying to grab anything they can get, and sounds like you all provide a pretty awesome service for people.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Your email on that list was get invited tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, April. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the meeting.
Thanks, guys.
Next item is considered a Highway 45 billboard update options. Chad?
So, past couple months, we've kind of talked about a little bit of the Highway 54 billboard. I believe in August, I brought back information that to rewrap them, the total cost for both sides would be a little over $6,000. That was in August. Obviously with inflation, things might be going a little bit more. But I think it was Hans asked the question, well, what would it be to what would it cost to digitize that board? So I've been working with Elevate 97. They're a company who purchased ColorTech Wisconsin. ColorTech Wisconsin was the last company that wrapped the board. So that's where my first contact was to go to. And they had to do a bunch of research, and they wanted to do a more in-depth study. Like I said, I think I reported last time it was going to be about $500 for that. I didn't want to spend $500 if the cost was known to be a $2 million project. I mean, it wasn't even going to be worth it to spend $500. But what they did come back with, and if you see in your packet, they came together with a sign that's 14 feet across by 10 feet high. Now, the existing sign for reference, what is it, 14 by 48. So the initial billboard, a digital billboard that came back with, was quite a bit smaller than what the existing one is. And having a 10 by 14 board, people traveling at 55 miles an hour plus, I think that's a little small, for that. But that cost came down back at, where's that cost? Over $112,000 for that 10 by 14 inch sign. So, some of the things I found out with that they told me, number one, that the existing support or the structure with the pillars and everything, they said it would not support, the current one would not support a digital sign. So it would have to be an entirely new structure. Right now, and if you read through my notes, I dug in the past city administrator files and found some notes regarding the existing sign. Must have been from the last time you guys rewrapped the sign, or the Economic Development Committee rewrapped the sign. So the current one is considered a non-conforming use sign. And there's a bunch of different categories on the DOT website now talking about, off-premise sign and, nonprofit or government sign and things like that. We're in a non-conforming use sign. And at the time when they replaced the wraps, there was notes saying in there that number one, we can't increase the size. Number two, we can't light it. Or number three, if any of the steel signposts are replaced, they have to be done in sequential order. Otherwise, it comes out of the non-conforming use and we have to go to this permitting process. So at the time, I think they just went through a process to rewrap them and not getting it out of that non-conforming use. So if we'd want to look at a digital structure, number one, the entire structure would have to come down with a new structure, which would be new permitting. In the permitting process, I did talk about if it's in the wetland area, then we'd have to get a DNR permit. To figure out if it's wetland area, we might have to do a study for that, just to find out if it's in a wetland area, if we need the permit. Official signs, that's what I was thinking about, official signs that governments can use to advertise for their community in general. A permitted one cannot be over 150 square feet or have a length of 20 feet on either side, length or height. So our current one is bigger than what's considered an official sign now. Official signs cannot display business or private information. It has to be a general information for the community. And the aspect would be, if we would do a project like this, it would be over obviously a $25,000 project. So we would have to bid it out per state law. And in that case, once to bid it out, we would have to come up with very detailed specifications on how to design this or how to bid it. And to do that, we would have to have a consultant help us out, because I have no idea what type of structure we would need to have in the specifications to support a structure for those type of things. So, Hans, to respond to your question, there's a lot going on if we want to make a digital sign. One of the cool things I thought about halfway through this process, I was like, wouldn't it be kind of cool if we had that as a digital sign? Could we use it to have our city businesses and our city nonprofits advertise it on as well, that we could bring in revenue to help pay it off? But unfortunately, if it becomes an official sign, we can't do anything with businesses or private use. So to do a digital sign, it would have to become the full-blown permitted off-premises type of sign. With that said, I mean, there's a lot of hoops I think we have to jump through. This is probably limited information. There's probably even more stuff we'd have to consider. But I think at this point in time, unless you guys really want me to spend a ton of time researching this, and I have no idea what this cost is going to be, to get something that's double the size, is it going to be double the cost? I'm thinking right now, rewrapping might be the easiest kind of.
My
Way to go.
question on being an off-property sign.
Mhm.
So if we were to go the route of exploring an off-property sign and bringing in revenue through, having some of the businesses and whoever display, can we also use it and like advertise our stuff?
Mhm.
So just because it's an off-property sign doesn't omit us from using it as we would as an official sign. It just gives us the extra opportunity.
Correct. Mhm.
Yes, we're kind of looking for some guidance here, ain't we? I mean, what does the group think?
I just think it makes more sense to rewrap it
I agree.
I agree.
I think that kind of turned into being quite a bit more than a guy, would- you know, you didn't know
It
until
was
you actually looked
interesting to
into
learn
it.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I-
I was really
Now we
curious
know.
what the cost was.
Yep.
I
I
think
think it was a good
that's
question.
a great wish list item. I think
I
that's
do
something
too.
that we could plan for and maybe budget for. I think it would be beneficial for the city. Maybe that's something we can tie in with the new highway, you know, and put it something more central out that way.
Mhm.
But yeah, I agree with rewrapping and maybe putting this on a wish list.
And that 6,000 was split between tourism and the city. So the city didn't pay that full 6,000.
Correct. So we would, if we're all on the same page, we would add a cost to rewrap it in the 2023 capital budget, which will come to the council in the future for consideration, and then hopefully team up with the tourism commission to share the cost.
I think, I mean, I don't know if anybody's looked at it lately, but it's starting to look shabby where it's starting to fall apart again.
Would we want to consider maybe putting it in the budget every year? To rewrap it every year? That way you get a little bit more of change. Just like the digital, you know, you have different stuff, you know, 4 years it's been since we've done it.
Mhm.
I mean, $3,000, I think it's a
Or maybe every
good
2 years
asset
or
for the
3
the
years.
community. I
So
think it-
increase that cycle. Yep. That's a possibility.
You could have some fun with that, right? Some kind of a photo contest.
I think we would team up on our current slogan of has an address right now, and try to piggyback off of that a little bit. But yeah,
Business
I
has an
mean,
address.
keep on going with this and, you know, increase the message.
I definitely think it's getting your return on the investment. I mean, that's a way to have, you know, promote your community. People drive by, oh, hey, you know, I think it's worth it for $3,000 a year or whatever, every other year.
Mhm. Cool. Well, I will, if everybody's on the same page, I'll put that as a capital request. Or item in our capital request for next year's budget, and the council will consider that as we get to that point.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Belinda second by
Is it Hans?
Robert.
Robert?
Linda, and then
So
No, Belinda's on.
Belinda and then Roberts.
No, Belinda,
no,
or
it's
Roberts
Hans.
isn't on. The Hans.
Oh, Hans.
Okay, we had a motion that was seconded. Any discussion?
What exactly is the motion?
I think they made the motion to,
To do the
On the
wrap.
capital
Do the
budget,
wrap.
budget
Okay.
rewrapping.
To include it to the capital budget's request.
Correct.
all right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Next would be follow up on the visioning workshop for the downtown River Alley. Finance with a technical assistant grant from ECW RPC.
So on October, what was it, October 11th? Yeah, on October 11th, we held our visioning workshop. This was a grant finance for the technical assistance grant from East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. The purpose of the grant, well, East Central has this technical assistance money. And what they do is they hold 4 technical assistance projects a year, and they bring in consultants from Ayers and Associates. One was a local person, but another one was from Colorado. They had a third person scheduled to come in, but that person got sick and couldn't attend. So the point was, on the 4 days, they were going to go to a community each day. We were the second day on Tuesday. And the point was to take a topic. You would have a public visioning session in the morning where people came in. In the afternoon, they would do their homework and do some researching and some schematics and designs, and then come back in the evening for a presentation. So we started our visioning workshop at 9 a.m. Familiar Grounds was gracious to host our visioning workshop. We had a really nice turnout of staff, property owners, business owners, and some other people. Like I said in my memo, we had Jeff Morkowski from Wapaka County Economic Development Corporation, and then also Jennifer, and I can't remember her last name again.
Alan.
Jennifer Allen from Fox Cities, downtown Fox Cities Inc. I think that's what they are. But Jennifer used to work. She was the chamber director at one time before Lori Shaw was. And it was just a really good turnout of individuals. I know Hans was there in the morning. April was there in the morning. I don't know if anybody else was. Mayor Mark was there in the morning. Some really good input and discussion from different people about, first of all, what is the intended use for the business owners and the property owners for the alley? And I think it really reinforced what the need is. I mean, the need for transportation of goods and services in the back, the deliveries, not only for bringing product in, but for like delivering people out, like, or delivering things out, like Jolly Rogers with their pizza delivery. And then there was some discussion about, well, can we multi-use it and, have it maybe closed down at sometimes during the day that we could use it for other intended uses for pedestrians, after that. But it really came to light that the alley is really dependent on having that availability for traffic, not only for the deliveries, but then I think Bernie or somebody else must have commented on for emergency services. I mean, if there's a fire or something back there, you can't have a bunch of tables, sitting in that back alley and waiting for a fire to come in or fire trucks to come in. So having that availability is very important. So we got a lot of input in the morning. Then we took a tour of the alley. We took the consultants in the back alley. One of the comments that stuck with me from one of the consultants was looking at the back alley. They said that alley has almost every single building material type known to man along that back alley. There's wood, there's everything. So that makes it kind of a challenge trying to make something conducive with a single or with a few type of building materials to have a similar look across the whole alley. But in the afternoon, they went to work and they did their thing, their homework. And then at 5 o'clock, we had a nice presentation where they came up with some ideas. The first idea was just because of the different type of building materials in the back alley, maybe you just look at doing more of the mural type things. Maybe you do more of the funky type facade looking things. And they came and gave us some examples for that. They also gave some renderings of a possible cantilever pedestrian walk on top of the river wall to kind of allow the alley to still have the use of deliveries and the vehicle access, but then have the pedestrian access cantilevered over the top of the wall overlooking the river. Obviously, putting that on paper is one thing. Actually figuring out if the wall can support a cantilever type system is something else. So, I mean, a lot more work would have to be done engineering wise to see if a cantilever system would be able to be supported by that wall. They came up with a creative idea of in St. John's Park, instead of having the current parking lot in St. John's Park exit and enter in on North Water Street, they actually came up with an idea to turn the parking lot and have the entrance on North Water and or the exit off the alley. So you could actually come through with vehicles from the alley and on North Water Street. And one of the comments of that was when we were walking down the alley, there was a delivery truck delivering product. And there was somebody else that drove down with a trailer halfway down the alley, and they had to back up the entire length with this trailer. So, maybe having that escape route in St. John's Park was an interesting idea, that if someone did turn down the alley and there was a truck delivering something and wasn't going to be moving quickly, somebody could escape out of St. John's and continue on without having to back up the entire way. So some neat little ideas for what they presented. I'm going to be getting a formalized report for all this stuff, the presentation. I haven't gotten it yet, but once I get that, I'll share it with you guys. Anyone else that was there? Did I miss anything?
That was an excellent recap.
Yeah, absolutely. That was,
But it was a free grant, and I really like just the continued networking and conversations with the business owners and the downtown property owners. I think that was really good.
I think the cantilevered walkway idea is probably the most realistic use of that space in terms of pedestrian use of it. Also, obviously, very expensive and an engineering feat in itself. To me, the two takeaways were the ones that we had not necessarily asked for, which were turning the park
Mhm.
because it was going to give you the additional access both into and out of the alley, but it would also bring the green space directly up to the street and draw more attention to the fact that it exists, because right now it's hidden behind a parking lot. And so it's difficult to see from the street. And I mean, I don't know how expensive that is to do, but we're going to be having a project down there. And so maybe there's a way to kind of build that into the project one way or another. Also, one thing that kept coming up over and over and over in the meetings were we have issues with parking. And those issues with parking probably are what they are, but there's a way to make the prospect of walking more enjoyable and more inviting. And there was some recommendations about making the walking corridors more inviting, like build outs into the street or whatever. And I know as we're looking at this project, and we're going to be doing this project in the next couple of years, I think now is an opportunity to really incorporate those ideas. So I hope that those two ideas are looked into soon, and we find out what, if any way, we can incorporate them into the plans that we already have.
I agree with you 100%, Hans. That was my takeaway as well.
And to piggyback off that a little bit, the other takeaway that I grabbed onto was if we do anything in the back alley, if we can, mimic what's done in the front with the project, whether it's colors, whether it's lighting, whether it's something to kind of, create that symmetry of, the feel of the whole alley being part of the front road or North Water Street too. So that was another thing that I didn't think of until they kind of made that point. So.
Didn't they say that by turning that parking lot, we would not lose any parking spaces?
Mm-mm.
Same.
It would be the same.
So,
And it would almost like invite you to go towards the river.
Yep.
yeah,
One of our
yeah,
biggest
that's how I
assets.
felt about
For
it.
me,
Because
that
right now
was
the
just
parking lot
outstanding.
stops you.
I love that.
I'd really like to see that happen, because it really did look inviting, like you said, with both parking and the green space.
Mhm.
And then also gave you that out.
Yeah.
Or in, I mean,
Yeah.
I was kind of blown away by that aspect.
Mhm.
Because I'm sure that happens more than, that was just the one day you guys were down there.
Mhm.
And
I'm
when,
sure many times it happens.
and when we were
Deliveries.
down there and that delivery truck was there, we had a hard time walking
Oh
around.
my gosh, yeah, I didn't realize how much
Yeah.
space a delivery truck takes up back there.
It would also invite to that, to the decking dock that's back there. It offers that invitation back there as well. A lot of people don't even know that exists.
That's something we can table for something, huh?
I think it's something everybody could just keep in the back of their heads, keep on chewing on that. And as we work towards the project, we kind of just bring these back up. And if it's something that we want to target as a project in the future, the cantilever, Riverwalk, it's something we have to budget for and then start that process if that's something we're serious on. But I think these were just all cool
Definitely like
ideas just to
more
talk about.
information
A lot of
on it.
money to spend if there's nothing done with the back of the buildings. Because people ain't gonna utilize it just to walk along the river to see the back of the buildings. Cause from the other side of the river, where the apartments are gonna go, the back of those buildings are an eyesore. You gotta look at it that way too.
It's
So
gonna
that
be a
was
cool
also-
experience to do it anyways, because you're gonna be
I
walking
would-
over the river.
I look at it more as
Like, you're
an
gonna be
experience to
walking on-
walk over the water more
Yeah.
than going back there to look at the buildings.
So it was also brought up the concept of people are used to, we'll say, leave their brooms out there, their snow shovels out there because it's in the backyard. Now, if you make their backyard their front yard, they're gonna clean it up and use it differently as their storefront because there are uses back there. That was also discussed too in that general aspect. I don't disagree with you at all, but in hopes of that, it would get cleaned up.
And I guess on that point, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I mean, we have 3 property owners in the downtown right here. What do you guys think about the back alleys and where to go with that? Because obviously as being stakeholders is very important to you guys as being involved in the process. So what do you guys think?
I got nothing. I mean, it's always been talked about. It's been talked about for years and nothing ever gets done. So that's why I didn't even go. I thought it was a waste of time. I mean, it's fun to dream, but I don't think, we're never going to get a walkway or whatever. It is what it is. I mean,
But I guess I thought about the building themselves. What do you guys think about what we could do if we do anything, to Bernie's comment about, either encouraging some change and where do we go with that change with the back alleys? What do we either encourage or where do we go with that?
I think what we're doing already is probably the limit. They are private buildings. People can do what they want, right? But the mural project has been kind of a cool use of some of the buildings back there. I don't know if during the summer, the city can offer some services and kind of keeping weeds in check and that kind of stuff. That might help, but you probably have gone as far as you can, I would guess. I mean, I would think that if, kind of to Tim's point, if there was something that could have been done that was easy, it would have been done years ago. I know there was talk years ago of trying to do a mural across all the buildings, and that really didn't get very far. And I don't think it would this time either. So you probably are at where you're at. But I do sort of disagree that nobody would go back there. I think people would. I think if you gave them the opportunity for kind of a different experience, walking along an elevated walkway, a well-lit elevated walkway on a summer night over a river is not the same as walking through an alley. It's a different experience. So I think it would be used.
We did have a business owner come in who's been in business downtown for 29 years, and she had expressed that it's been talked about for years, but she said that this was the one idea to her that actually made sense. So that was exciting to hear.
I do really like the idea of St. John's Park being turned. And I know a while back we had some discussions about the sidewalks being so far in the downtown reconstruction project. That's coming up next year already. And, I would like to hear where we're at as far as what the direction we are going in with the downtown project. We haven't really been updated on that lately.
So we haven't had a meeting in a while, just because there's been so many other things going on. But and when I say meeting, we've got that public involvement planning group, downtown business owners and some other people. We haven't met in a while just because things have been going on. But internally, we've been working with Newland Utilities to get some lighting options. So we've been kind of working on that on the back end. And Jay brought in some people from Crescent Electric, and they took some information. They came back and brought us some other information. One of the things we were really concerned about is, could we do some type of non-institutional looking light, maybe some vintage, maybe something a little bit more decorative? Could we do that without having to increase the number of light poles in the downtown and drastically increasing the cost? So in a nutshell, would a vintage looking light give off the same amount of light as what's currently down there, so you didn't have to like double the lights, in the downtown? And the answer is correct. We can do that. They have the current lighting options that they have does give us opportunity to put some type of decorative looking light on there without having to double the amount of light poles in the downtown. So we've determined that. And once you start looking into that, there are a bazillion options. I mean, between the poles and the arms and the lights and everything. So we got some basic information on just kind of a nice basic vintage looking light. And once Robert gets all that information, Robert's working on that right now. We're gonna call our next meeting and get everybody together and start continuing that process and see what everybody likes with that. So we haven't met in a while. That's why you haven't heard anything. We've been busy with other efforts and things going on.
I was kind of wondering the same thing.
I have two things to say. First, when it comes to the back alley and the property owners and their items and things, what part of the back alley belongs to the property owners and what falls under any kind of planning and zoning and ordinance issues? And what do those stay? So that's kind of, those are questions that I have about that. And then back to the walkway and whether or not the wall would supporting it. I'd like for some kind of look into that and what it would take to find that out.
So your first question on the ownership, the property owners own the property all the way into the river.
Okay,
So it's not owned by the city, it is owned by the property owners. There is an easement that Kent worked on years ago to basically maintain the access of the alley for egress and ingress purposes. And the reason for that was if one property owner, before that, one property owner could have put a fence up across that alley and then blocked it for everyone. So that easement does open it up for everybody. It's a 30 or 60 year, it's a limited, it's not forever, not in perpetuity. There's a sunset clause in that one. So at some point in time, it does expire, would have to be relooked at. And I believe, and don't quote me, but I believe in the agreement, the city is responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep of the alley. And the city is responsible and the ownership of the wall itself, I believe. I'd have to double check that, but off the top of my head, those are the points of that, of the ownership of the river alley. And your second question regarding
putting the walkway would,
Oh.
looking into what it would take to find out if the wall would even support it.
I could, that would be getting a quote from an engineer to do a study on that, to see what it would entail. Now, we had MSA do the last investigation and bid specifications when, a couple years ago, when we did those major repairs. So they got a lot of that company's got a lot of that information already. So it might not be too bad for that company to look at their current information to kind of give us that, but at least I can get a quote to see what it would be cost to do a study.
I mean, I'm not poo-pooing on anything. I think that walkway would be amazing. That would be really cool. Would we want to get some kind of numbers together and then throw out a referendum to the city? Hey, you guys talk about the back alley forever. You want to pay for it?
And there's grants available too that they shared, that the DNR has grants and the state has grants that would support the project.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I like the referendum idea. That's not a bad idea.
It was talked about a long time ago when Kent was here about having the walkway you're talking about behind Saputo, instead of having a dead ending going out into the river and underneath the bridge, and the cost was astronomical.
That was also brought up.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, looking at, I mean, I can see looking at it, I think it's a great idea. But I think once you see the cost to do it, I think it's gonna be prohibitive. I know the other one was, because you gotta be so high in the Shawano Street Bridge, they said was made higher so that you could have a walkway to go underneath it at one time. But then you're looking at the height of the river. The river's high, you got a walkway there, it's gonna be underwater because you're gonna be bunking your head on the bridge if you go underneath it. So, I mean, I think it's a great idea to have that walkway there, but I think you can look into it, but I got a feeling you're gonna find a.
What's the liability on a city if the city puts that up?
It'd be general recreation.
If somebody falls off that walkway
Mhm.
because it's expanded over to the river and drowns, what's the liability on the city?
City's got recreational immunity. So as long as we're not negligent in something,
Creating a hazard.
Willfully
hazard.
negligent.
it's no different than having the docks down at the boat launch. You know, we got the state has a very strong recreational immunity statute that protects property owners for that. As long, I mean, say there was some big cracks underneath there and we knew it was gonna fall apart and we didn't close it down and we allowed people to walk on it. Well, that's a different story, but if it was engineered properly and built per specifications. And I think the ideas they showed actually had a railing across that entire walkway as well.
Mhm.
It did, it's all.
I don't know if you guys ever been to Green Bay. Green Bay has a walkway downtown there too. It's pretty cool.
Yep.
I would love to see the numbers too. I think they will probably be prohibitive, I would guess. The other two things that we talked about will probably be cheaper.
Mhm.
And it seems to me that there's a certain immediacy to it in terms of tying it to the project that's already going to be occurring. So whatever we can do to move those ideas forward and get some ideas on what those are going to cost.
I have a question. Will anything, the concept for St. John's be, would we be able to even do that with the 2023 and 2024? That even be a suggestion or an option?
We can look into it. We don't have any funding targeting that right now and budgeted for that right now. So depending on what that would cost, you know, I mean, and the only other consideration as we get closer to this, we're gonna have to start firming up these numbers, but we wrote our grant, you know, 2 years ago before this inflation just went crazy. So we got to kind of feel out where, you know, the project cost is going to end up in today's numbers compared to when we wrote the grant. And see what we got available with all that. So
Any other discussion on that downtown alley? If not, we can move on to updates and reports. Business updates, April.
I want to share with the committee that we have 5 commercial buildings for sale. One is listed. Hilby's, I think everyone is aware, is the one that is listed right now. Hilby's in New London Lanes for sale. MK Flooring on North Water Street, 310 West North Water Street. Building is for sale, businesses not included. Coils Tire, we're seeing a lot of our longstanding business owners retiring, reaching retirement age. Coils Tire located right on Pearl Street for lease, businesses and building is for lease, or the building is for sale. We had a ribbon cutting for the Grand Cinema Theater. The owner came and he did share that the building and the business is still for sale. Advantage Signs and Graphics. Cindy is also on her way to retirement. So she is looking to lease or sell her building. Timeline is to be determined. Rhonda Olson, American Family Insurance, also retiring. Her business is not closing and admin will be keeping the office open and then they're going to hire a new agent in 2023. If you've driven down Shawano Street, you see Napa Auto is working on exterior improvements on the former Dollar General. So we hope to see that open soon. And then to date, we have 17 Main Street bounce back grants that have been committed in New London. So that's $170,000 invested in our business community. Any questions?
Is Aldi's moving into the Piggly Wiggly? I know.
Rumor
been-
number 100.
Oh my gosh. It's a guaranteed thing. They bought the building.
There's nothing public that I can share at
Okay.
this time.
I keep telling them, but they're like, no, it's a sure thing.
I've been stopped several times about that as well. And I just have said the same thing that April, as far as anything.
Maybe every
there's-
week at the
Yeah,
chamber.
I just keep saying,
Please tell us there's an Aldi's.
there is nothing publicly known.
You make some kind of an announcement about that last month, about what that building was going to be used for?
No, I shared that Macaport and Touch and Tan were being evicted because their building was sold.
Which at the barber shop turns into Aldi's is coming.
Oh, I think that's where it came from.
It
too,
was
the barbershop.
seriously the next day I was bombarded.
So there's no
I'll be
details
shouting
on,
from the rooftops.
there's no
Happens.
details on who bought the Piggly Wiggly.
No details.
Blast it on the billboard if it happens.
We certainly hope the owners the best wishes and are welcome.
All right.
Could be another auto parts store. That would be nice.
We could use another one, couldn't we?
I sure hope it's something like AutoZone. That'd be fantastic.
All right, thanks, April. Next would be the city administrator report.
Cool. I
Chad?
just got two quick things. Number one, just an update from the last meeting. We had SC Swiderski here to talk about the downtown project. Just to let everybody know that the council did approve to continue working with SC Swiderski to work on that development. So I'm gonna start working on that with them. And then the planning commission, they're working on updating the city's comprehensive plan. I don't know if you really look at those minutes at all. But that's a planning document required by law. And in the last meeting, the planning commission reviewed the economic development section of the plan. I've included that section in your packet for your review. So if there's anything that sticks out of the economic development section in the comprehensive plan that you'd like us to look at on the planning commission end, bring that to my attention, let me know, and I can bring it to the planning commission for their talk and consideration. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Chad and April. Next, we review potential agenda meetings for future meetings, agenda items for the future meetings. Special facade improvement program for North Water Street.
Yep, I got that on the agenda yet, just so I don't forget about it, because we want to target that. There was something that came up today and I can't remember what it was.
I'm not referencing that, but I'd like to invite Beth Nash, who is the new Inspire Director.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, next, any public comment? No public comment at this time? Okay, Chad, can we review the next meeting date?
Next meeting date, next regularly scheduled one would be November 29th. That should work out because it's after Thanksgiving, not the week of Thanksgiving. So November 29th, 5:15.
Okay, if that's all, I make a motion or looking for a motion for adjournment.
Oh,
Motion made and seconded. All signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?